Bochitereke Baldwin Matibe, Program Director.
Okay.
I think today we are in full house in terms of members of the Executive Council. And it is important for this house to know them. I can see, because the light is disturbing. There is MEC for Education, Mabungulu Rudi Ramakanya. You can see her. She's sitting next to the MEC for Social Development, and next to her, I think, May Florence Radzilani. We also have our MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development, May Nakedi Sibanda Kekano. And there is MEC Manana Violet Susana for Community Safety and Police. They want to know if your province is safe for investment. They can't invest in an unsafe province. We also have the MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture, Ntate Jerry Maseko. There's a lot of opportunity in our heritage to can invest on. We also have the man who holds the purse, who is also acting today on behalf of MEC Makamu, who's attending a conference in Egypt. That's MEC for Finance, Bo Ntate Mawai. We also have the MEC who must make sure that the life expectancy of the people of our province, at least it's at 70. Don't ask me why. Mediating Mashiro. And of course, we have our last born, the MEC for the Kherekhere roads infrastructure. All these investors want roads that are accessible to the areas where they are investing. I think it's important for you to know the team. Minister Paxter, who is still to join us, and Deputy Minister Judith Chabalala, His Worship, the Executive Mayor who is hosting us, Councillor Makoro John Mpendo, all the other local mayors who are here, because investment doesn't happen in the offices of the Premier, but in different municipalities. We also have the Executive Mayor of Capricorn District, Mayor Mamidu Pitifo, and all other executive mayors from other 4 districts. And of course, our guests, we've got international guests from the Republic of China, from Russia, from the United Arab Emirates. We have our guests from Zimbabwe. We have our guests from Namibia, and they are still coming in. For now, I've only been able to recognize those. We also have our premier, once a premier, always a premier, Dr. Matthew Posa, even though today he came on a different cap, but he's still a premier to me, our veteran, who I still tap some words of wisdom to. Our House of Traditional Leaders, as led by Hosingove, and all our traditional leaders who are here. The Director General for the Provincial Government, Bon Chabeleng, and the HOD, Ratumbu. I must mention the HOD. He knows why. If he had not delivered, I would not even recognize him. So HOD Ratumbu and all your other colleagues, HODs. And of course, the CEOs. Let me recognize the CEO who has dressed nicely today. And I warned him to say that a suit of yours must reflect this conference. If you dress nicely and you don't deliver, I will talk about you. And now on a different note, CEO Makuba, you have dressed well and you have delivered on the conference, and all the other CEOs. Our captains of industry, and most importantly, our investors and all those that I have not really mentioned, the representative of the labor unions, and also the members of the business forums in our country, and also the friends from our media, the distinguished guests, and most importantly in our province, we are today blessed by the representative of our two ZCC bishops. We have invited the leadership of our churches in the province, but we have received the two, the ZCC church, the bishop, the Right Reverend Bishop Dr. B.E. Lekhanyane. It's represented by Mr. Titus Marumane, Mr. Soli Mutlamunyani, Mr. Charles Rankapule, and Mr. John Putan. Equally, the St. Engenas ZCC, our bishop, Dr. Pete Lekhanyane, who will represent Dr. Lekhanyane, would be Mr. Pete Lekhanyane, and all those are representing our two churches. To me, I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, Abushane. It is a great pleasure for me to host all of you today to the 4th Limpopo Investment Conference here at the logistics capital of our beautiful province, the City of Stars, where you have heard from the executive mayor himself that this is the only city in the continent or even globally with a capacity to tie the lions. I am particularly awed by the presence of so many influential leaders gathered here, as well as those who have joined us virtually. I'm told we were oversubscribed to an extent that even we had to have more than 2,000 from within and also outside the borders of South Africa and the continent who have joined us virtually. Thank you for being here and for recognizing the immense potential that Limpopo holds for business for business growth and socio-economic development. The MEC for Economic Development, Chitareke Matibe, as he was briefing me in the morning, says, Premier, you can now tick in terms of my performance. The conference is oversubscribed. And my question was, what does oversubscription means? He then says, because it's very difficult to please me, that you must know. He then realized, MEC Mabungu, that the only way to please me is to try to buy my face and say, the interpretation of this oversubscription by captains of industries, but potential investors, it's just a sign that the markets are agreeing with the leadership of the Communist Party in the province. So for that, he was able to soften to say, indeed, markets are agreeing that communists can lead. We are leading this province as the Communist Party. So you have learned from what the Communist Party of China could do to the people of China. So don't really underestimate. So MEC, I was touched by that. As we gathered here today, it is essential to remind that the 6.6 million people in this province rely on a thriving economy to sustain their lives. The cornerstone of that sustenance is what we aim to achieve through this conference, joining hands with investors to harness the value of our abundant natural resources. The Limpopo Investment Conference remains our flagship program of stimulating our envisaged inclusive economic growth. We are mindful of the many investment conferences that are currently taking place globally on a daily basis. However, our province will outline the value proposition to potential investors embedded in both traditional and new economic growth sectors of our province. We have aligned our comparative advantage to the industrial policy of the province and the national macroeconomic policy imperatives. A program director, Just last week, of course, we had a successful meeting with His Excellency, the President of the Republic, President Bomatamela Ramaphosa, and members of his cabinet, including deputy ministers and director generals. The one thing that stood out and remains a pertinent question that the President asked us was, what is it that is preventing Limpopo from succeeding with such rich natural resources? That is, for me, the most critical part of what this conference should be able to answer. What is holding us back as a province? We've done speeches, it's enough. We must make sure that we move away from speeches and start to really turn around the situation of our province, and that together. And for me, that together, what we can do to leverage on the potential of this province, it's very critical and important. And I know in these 2 days, we would have been able to answer that question. Limpopo remains the home of natural resources of interest in the world. The provincial government invested in profiling all the growth sectors for ease of reference to potential and existing investors. Our priorities as a 7th administration are to accelerate the pace of infrastructure rollout, therefore creating that conducive environment which the executive mayor and the MEC spoke about for business to thrive. We are supporting the rollout across all district municipalities to ensure that all underdeveloped regions in all our municipalities are developed to the scale equivalent to their potential for socio-economic transformation. There is no reason why the Letaba Valley, for example, it's amongst of both avocados and tomatoes, yet it does not have a processing factory in its vicinity. I always say this, and I'm going to repeat it today. If you look at the young girls, the maidens who grew up from the far north, the Wembe region, and also from the Mupani region, you will notice that we hardly use makeup because we grew up bathing with avocado due to its abundance. If you disagree, just look at your premier. Now, for me, it is that bridge that we would want this conference to build. Sometimes, as I was sitting last night, MEC Matibe, I felt like Mupisarem, who, when faced with difficulties on his journey, asked this question. Ndorira dzamato wanga dzitabani, amfarisa uvangapi. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? Today, I'm so excited because I see my help. It's full in this room, in this hall. Because from the onset as your premier, I have outlined the importance of business in our goal towards building a successful economy. The reality is that while our province, as the program director has already indicated, has a slightly lower unemployment rate, the official unemployment rate, which is at a slightly higher, slightly lower than the national. We need to do more. Because let's go back to history. In 2019, when the Limpopo Development Plan was adopted, we outlined very clearly our goal, that is, we need to get unemployment rate down to 20% in our province. It is possible, and I believe in this room we can. Why can't we? Of course, we can if there is willingness, if there is drive, if there's hard work and a burning desire to do so. Program director sitting here today, you are the help that we all need. The economic development cluster within our government is mandated to implement programs that will turn around the economic fortunes of our citizens in the shortest possible time. Why did as a county stop saying South Africa is alive with possibility? We must ask ourselves that question and look deep within ourselves and ask, is Limpopo alive with the opportunity?